and welcome to IMI Insights podcast, a series where each week we will be in conversation with a member of the IMI faculty to explore and understand the research and idea behind the latest article for the IMI Insights blog. From emerging trends in business and technology to the ever-evolving dynamics in leadership and strategy, this series will offer fresh perspectives and practical takeaways that businesses can use to make decisions. In our very first episode of the IMI Insights podcast, we are joined by Professor Himadri, who is the Director General of IMI. In his article, he explores why tech fluency is the new competitive edge for senior leadership and what it looks like for the future of leadership. Hello, Professor Das, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Farana.
So diving right in, we want to know what inspired you to write this article and why is it so relevant for today's time?
See, I hear from a lot of people, and mostly leaders in different sectors, including even in education, that there is this sense of apprehension and fear about tech. And they say, I wish we had a magic pill which we could swallow, which would help us understand tech well enough to use it effectively, whatever effectively means from their expectation point of view. So I sense this gap between knowledge of tech among leaders and what they thought is required and what is actually required, and also a fairly strong underlying current of fear. So to kind of take the fear out of it and to also give them some guidelines on how they can go about bridging this gap, I thought this article would be relevant.
Yeah, so I'm glad you say that because there is a lot of fear about, of course, learning. So a lot of time tech, and this is what you've mentioned in the article as well, people mistake it for saying, learning how to code or to becoming an engineer, but that is not what tech fluency is about. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
See, I think the fear comes down to something very basic, which is the fear of the unknown. Anything that is unknown looks daunting because you know zilch about it. And then you start getting scared. It's like back in school, some people are fearful of mathematics and numbers. And because they live in that fear, they never muster up the courage to learn it. But it's not that difficult. Math is actually the simplest of all the subjects in school. If you can muster up that fear early enough in age, So I believe tech is exactly that. Tech, from a fluency point of view, is fairly simple. But people think of tech as the deep tech of what you mentioned, coding and software architecture and et cetera. And they think, whoa, that is very difficult. There is no way I can ever get there. But what is required at a leadership point of view is what I've termed in this article as tech fluency. And it is not needing to code or develop databases or do, software architecture. It is just being able to speak the language, so to speak.
Yeah. So continuing on, this topic of fear that people have, there was actually a survey done by PwC, and it shows that around 79% of senior leadership is aware that, the landscape of tech is changing at a very fast pace. And in spite of being aware of this, there's still the amount of leaders that actually take a step towards changing or learning are very few. And in your article, I found this very interesting analogy that you've made between, being tech fluent and learning a new language. So do you think that can motivate leaders to sort of pick it up without really fearing how to, learn tech?
Before I come to that analogy, I'm going to give you a different example, which is not in the article.
Sure.
But it's relevant to your question.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of people who know that they are unhealthy, right? And they know they need to take care of their health. How many do? Very few, right? Because there is this inertia to start eating healthier or start exercising. So it never gets done, even though they're aware. Right. So awareness doesn't help unless you do something about it. So my objective here was to motivate them enough to say it is not that huge a chasm to jump across. It's like saying, from a health analogy, just start walking. Nobody asked you to go to the gym. Start walking for starters, right? And maybe don't snack in the middle of the day. Just have breakfast, lunch and dinner. Don't even worry about what you're eating in the beginning. So tech fluency fits in that same space, and the language metaphor, I think, is very valid. Let's say you are a leader who is going to, drive market entry in a different geographical area where the language is different. It's good to kind of understand what people are saying. It's good to say a few words, and it's good to, kind of know your lay of the land in terms of the language. But you don't have to be grammatically correct.
Right.
And you'll be forgiven for making grammatical errors because it's not your native language. And you obviously don't have to, write prose and poetry in it. Neither do you have to appreciate prose or poetry. So tech fluency is like that. Know how to speak the tech language, understand it, more important than speaking it, and speak it little bits and pieces. And if you make mistakes, that's fine. At least you follow the conversation.
Okay, so now moving on, we would like to look at what are the risk factors that could come in when, say, senior leadership, especially with, the emerging trends in AI and even data analysis for that matter. If they're not fluent in it, what are the kind of risks that could actually come up?
In my mind, the risks are huge because they're going to miss important signals from a data point of view. See, a lot of people speak qualitatively and they speak what I call anecdotally. Finally, all of those are often outliers. It's data which talks if you're willing to listen to it. And data always talks, but the ability to listen to it is where tech fluency comes in. Now, everybody hears about data analytics, right? There is some data scientist doing all that for you. There is a statistician doing all that for you. But what you get is something you should be able to interpret. Because the guy who does the analytics may not have business acumen and business insights. But you as a business leader have it. So you should be fluent enough on the tech side that when you look at graphs, look at charts, look at, visual, what is called data visualization. When you look at those visualized data summaries, you should be able to see things in it, whether it's a trend, whether it's a warning, and whether it's a leading indicator or something that's going to go south. You should be able to catch it before it's too late. Now, the same applies to AI. AI can help you do a lot of things. Number one, today, especially with Gen AI, it's a huge productivity enhancement tool. If leaders are not using it, they are spending a lot of time doing things they could have done much faster. And Gen AI is a wonderful assistant who doesn't make errors. Your human assistant might make errors, might feel sleepy at the end of the day or might be tired. The Gen AI never gets tired. And they don't make mistakes. It's a question of how you guide them. So if you're not using it, then you're wasting time doing things you could have done much faster and then given your time to other things. And beyond the Gen AI, which is the buzzword today, just what I call old-fashioned AI, being able to use past data to predict the future is very powerful. Everybody wishes they had a crystal ball they could gaze into to know what's going to happen in the future. Now you got that crystal ball. Predictive analytics is a big part of ML and machine learning in the field of AI. And you have that at your disposal. Somebody else is going to build the model. You ask them the questions you want to get answered as a business guy. And that person builds you a model to answer those questions. You look at the answers and you decide how you want to act on it.
Right. That's very interesting that you've pointed that out. So we've talked about the fear of learning and we've also talked about the risk factors. Could you share an example that you may have seen of when tech fluency has led to a positive outcome?
See, a standard example which everybody knows is what telcos do, what they call churn modeling. So they use predictive modeling built on machine learning algorithms to know in advance when somebody might leave that telco and move to another telco. And this is expensive because the cost of acquisition is high enough. And unless you have a high lifetime value, it doesn't pay for itself. So then they will, if they know in advance, they can act on it. They will do the proverbial whining and dining them. They'll make them deals, discounts, maybe special offers, etc. to keep them. I have personally been involved in a situation where the CHRO of a large multinational corporation, I cannot name the company, had approached me many years ago, before this whole thing became fashionable, with a problem that this gentleman was facing. He was worried about people leaving the organization. So his concern was, I'm losing money from a business point of view because these are people I've invested in. And when they are going to become productive, soon after that, they leave. And each time I have to hire somebody, besides the cost of hiring, there is the cost of bringing them up to speed. So it's affecting my business. This is the CHRO's problem. So he said that, can you help us know in advance that people are going to leave? And for that, we have data, which is, HR support system data, where we have a portal where people can go in and, ask questions about policies, about anything to do with HR policies, anything. And then they get answers. And since it's a technology-based system, we can log everything. We know who asked which question when and in what sequence, etc. So what we did is we built for them an attrition model, again based on some standard machine learning algorithms for predictive modeling, to predict in advance who would leave. And all these models will give you prediction with a certain % probability, but which is better than tossing a coin, much better. So the probability of being correct is much more than 50%, which is why I think it's better than tossing a coin. So armed with the data, what the CHRO told me is that they were going to look at people who are likely to leave, and the ones they would like to retain, they would spend extra effort on them, maybe find out, is there some other role you'd like to do? Would you like a role enhancement? Would you like more responsibilities? Would you like us to invest in some L&D intervention for you, like send you for some training, some workshop? What would make you feel your job was more fulfilling than it is now? And we obviously are not going to go and tell them that we believe you're going to leave, but we will try and proactively find out what we can do to make their job more enriching and make them enjoy working with us more than what they do now. And the hope is, which is more than a hope, that if we do that, then they will want to stay. So they're seeing that there is growth happening when they stay. So this was a real CHRO problem, which was recognized as a problem that impacts business with the intention to do something to fix it, where technology came in extremely handy.
So it makes it a lot more easier. It's not like a manual thing that you're doing, but something's helping you to create models that can help with this.
I think manual is not even possible. So This has helped us do things we could not even do before.
Absolutely. So, just to talk about all of this can be very overwhelming for somebody who's not a digital native, right? So in your article, you do mention newsletters, blogs, and other things that they can look at, but that can also be very overwhelming. So how would you suggest someone choose what is the right format for them to learn or even begin with tech fluency?
So now I'm going to wear my educator hat, which is my day job. Yes. So standard theory in education and learning is that different people have different learning styles.
True.
You can't have one size fits all.
Absolutely.
So the reason I gave so many options is not to say you got to them all. It was like a multiple choice question. You can pick whichever one works for you. So some people who learn by reading, for them the newsletters work best. They don't need to do anything else. For those who learn by listening, a podcast could work where they're in the gym, or they're driving, or they're on a flight. For those who like to learn visually, there are YouTube channels, which I mentioned, which you could consume. And those who want to kind of learn by doing a little bit, interactive, there are courses in which the exercises you do, etc., etc. So you pick what is aligned with your learning style. So pick either one of those four, the podcast or the newsletter or the YouTube videos or the online courses, and do that.
Okay. So now I'll move back to the health analogy that you had given a bit earlier. So we also know that, somebody who wants to say work on their health, it's not going to be like an overnight thing. It's a day-by-day process. So even in this, what do you think there are small day-by-day habits that people can inculcate to, get better at tech fluency?
So I don't know if this will work for health or not, but for tech fluency, it works for sure. Be very happy to say, I don't know. And I believe in this. I tell this to my students in class. No question is a stupid question. Right. If you don't ask the question, you will become stupid through ignorance. If you ask the question, you'll become smarter by learning something. So a tech leader should be completely willing to sit in a meeting and ask a person who is many years her or his junior that I don't know what this means. Please explain. Please educate me.
Okay.
And this thing works from personal experience. I do this all the time. Under different situations, I'll say, I don't know what this means. Please explain to me or please educate me. I want to learn. So that is the fastest way to learn, because if somebody is teaching you because you're asking them, first of all, when you ask people, they are more than happy to teach. I have yet to come across someone who says, I won't tell you. So, and it's an efficient way of learning, right? You found something you got stuck in, rather than going and looking it up on a Gen AI tool or on Google, which is a waste of time. If there's somebody standing right there or sitting right across who can tell you, who's an expert, learn right there. So I think that is the first habit people have to build, to say, I don't know. Say, I want to know. Please help me learn. If people do that and keep their ego aside, more than half the battle is won.
Okay. So, of course, then it's not just the senior leadership. Of course, it will percolate down to the organization as a whole. So now looking at that, let's take a step back and look at the whole organization, right? So when senior leadership is fluent in tech, how do you think this also helps the organization on the ground level to build up and be, say, more tech savvy or more fluent in tech?
It builds the DNA of the organization, right? It builds the culture. And it also puts pressure in a good way. Because if they see the big boss is tech fluent,
right,
then they're going to say that if I am not tech fluent, I'm going to get pulled up in meetings. I'm going to get pulled up in interactions one-on-one, because I'm expected to know what she or he has made an effort to learn. So I think it's great, because it'll kind of drive tech fluency throughout the organization, because today, I don't care what business you're in. If you're not using technology, you're going to go the way the dinosaurs went. Even the dinosaurs thought, I'm sure they thought at that time, they were invincible, because they were the lord of all other animals they surveyed, but they vanished, right? So I don't care how successful you are as an individual executive or how successful you are as a business. If you do not start using tech, you're going to go the same way dinosaurs went and be in some museum.
It's actually very interesting that you bring this whole dinosaur topic up, because on a closing note, what I want to understand from you is that, there was a recent survey done by the World Economic Forum's Future Jobs for 2025, and they talk about how senior leadership who are not tech fluent or who are not understanding tech will eventually phase out. So what does that mean for leadership in general? How do you see the pipeline changing now with the importance of tech fluency for senior leadership?
I think the phase out thing is very correct. I completely agree with that. The way to build a leadership pipeline that is tech fluent is to invest through L&D, learning and development in organizations, on your people who you think are otherwise groomed to be moving into the pipeline because of other attributes. So when I say invest in L&D means, send them on these small learning interventions. Everybody may not be able to make time to do these podcasts and learn to listen to these podcasts and watch YouTube videos, etc., etc. Right. To send them to workshops or bring in people who are experts in your organization, have them do workshops in-house. So L&D of companies has to invest in building tech fluency across the board, and especially in people they are otherwise grooming for leadership position, because they also owe it to their employees that if I have earmarked you for leadership, it is my job to make you an effective leader, and that will only happen if I've given you the ability to become tech fluent.
Right. So this has been a really interesting conversation, and what I understand from reading the article as well as this conversation, is that tech fluency is not something, it's not something that we can option, and is not like something that we can think of having or not, but it is a must. It is something that has become a need to have now for senior leadership.
You've understood absolutely correctly. It is not an option. It is an imperative. It is a must. It is not today's flavor of the month. It is here to stay, and this is going to be the future, and it's going to get even more and more, tech intensive as we go along. So better get on the, bus now, or be forever left behind.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. It was a really interesting conversation. You've not only told us why tech fluency is important, but also laid out like a sort of map for leadership that they can follow to become more fluent in tech. So it was very interesting. And thank you so much for coming on the first episode of IMI Insights podcast.
Thank you very much, Farhana. I enjoyed it too. Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us for the very first episode of IMI Insights, the podcast series. Be sure to check out the IMI Insights blog for more such articles.